The Dallas Stars started the week out on a strong note with a 4-1 win over the Arizona Coyotes at home to close out their 3-game homestand. On today's show, I'll give you a full recap and reaction of last night's game, talk about the things I liked and maybe a concerning issue that maybe isn't as concerning as you might think. And then to end the show, we will talk about the return of Ben Bishop. All of this coming up on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Stars.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to the Locked On Stars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Dane Lewis. It is Tuesday, December 7th. Yet again, another day that we get to celebrate a Dallas Stars win. They have now extended the win streak to 7, the home win streak to 8. And if the Stars win their next game against the Vegas Golden Knights, they will have set a new franchise record for consecutive wins. So still a very exciting time to be a fan of this Dallas Stars team. They ruined the homecoming for Anton Rosell and Louis Eriksson playing his 1,000th career NHL game. So hats off to Louis Eriksson on that. But still, as bitter as that is for them, sweet for the Dallas Stars, sweet for the fan base, and excited to break down this game and talk all about it. But before we get into all the good stuff, got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. The holidays are around the corner, and finding the perfect gift can be tricky. Omaha Steaks makes it easy to send friends and family an unforgettable gift guaranteed to be loved. Go to omahasteaks.com and enter NHL into the search bar to order the perfect gift package. Thank you for stopping by today's episode of Locked On Stars. Whether this is your first time here or you are a recurring listener, thank you for making Locked On Stars your first listen of the day. Be sure to subscribe and follow the podcast wherever you get your podcast at. It's absolutely free on podcasting platforms as well as on YouTube, where we have crossed 90 subscribers. So if you do feel so inclined, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Stars YouTube page and get us to 100. Again, thank you guys for all the follows and subscriptions. But without any further hesitation, let's talk about last night's big win over the Coyotes. And this, it wasn't necessarily the prettiest win. I know that a lot of the broadcast team on Bally Sports was saying that, and I certainly agree. We talked about in both matchups this season with the Coyotes that Dallas is clearly the better team on paper, but also just on the ice they've shown at times. But the Stars seem to be treading water a little bit in the first two periods. The game felt very close and was kind of, I don't know if dead's the right word, but just felt like not a whole lot was happening throughout most of the game in the first period, outside of the goals from Roope Hintz and Shane Gostisbehere. It was just kind of weird to see. And obviously, both teams coming off pretty long extended breaks, especially the Stars, who haven't really had that many 3-game breaks that this season, coming off a weekend off. Obviously not necessarily hot and warm from going over their past week or so. Maybe excusable a little bit, but just kind of weird to see that they were just kind of getting by in the first few periods. But they did what good teams do, what great teams do, and they closed out a game against an inferior opponent at home. Wins like this are so valuable because, you need to beat these bad teams, these rebuilding teams. So that way, if and when you do lose to the good teams, you still have that room for error, because obviously when you match up against a good team like Minnesota or maybe Toronto, Florida, a team like that, a loss then doesn't hurt as bad because you're getting wins when you're definitely able to get the wins, and you should be getting the wins. And Jamie Benn, my star of the game, could have gone to just about several players. Could have gone to Jacob Peterson, could have gone to Radulov. But Jamie Benn obviously scoring 2 huge goals down the stretch. You cannot deny the greatness of his play at the end of this game. His first goal coming with 3 seconds left on the power play. So the Stars power play stays hot. I believe they went 1 for 4 on the evening. And like I said, 3 seconds left on the power play. The captain, puts it home. And that gave Dallas a 3-1 lead. Obviously, nice cushion there, but then he wasn't done. His second goal came off of a very nice steal at the Arizona blue line. The Coyotes were trying to exit their own zone, trying to get a push going, trying to, get back into this game. And Jamie Benn stuck his stick up in the air, knocked the puck down, and then had a really nice connection with Radulov, who had a 2-assist night himself, had a very good night, like I said earlier. Cannot, forget the efforts of Alexander Radulov in this game. He even connected on Jacob Peterson's goal, the game winner. Super exciting to see Jacob Peterson get a game winner as a rookie. He continues to be very impressive. Obviously had his first goal of the evening taken away because he kicked it in. Pretty blatant. Obviously, the refs got that call right. The review took about 3 seconds for them to look and see. And even Jacob Peterson knew. Everyone else was celebrating, but he knew and looked up at the ref and knew that goal was not going to count. But he stuck with it. He was persistent. He was relentless. And he ends up bearing a goal to give Dallas the lead, and they never looked back from that lead. And again, Alexander Radulov with an excellent pass from behind the net on that play. I noticed it during the broadcast, but then going back afterwards and watching the condensed highlights of the game, man, maybe one of the best plays of the year so far. Just a beautiful, well-placed pass from Rads. And then Peterson, of course, in a nice position to put the puck in between the legs of Wedgwood of Arizona. And, obviously, like I said, not the prettiest win, but the boys came together at the end of the game down the stretch to put it away and, build that comfortable lead and snag 2 crucial points. And these points are super crucial because this Central Division stays chaotic. You currently have Minnesota at the top with 35 points, a pretty considerable margin at the top of the pack there. But then there is a 4-way tie for second place between Dallas, Colorado, Winnipeg, and St. Louis. Each of those teams has 28 points, and then Nashville has 27. So they're not too far behind themselves. We've been saying it all season long, and just like I predicted, this is the most competitive division in the NHL this year, I would say, and it's certainly living up to the hype right now. Dallas took a little bit of time to get going, and took a little bit to get to the party, but they showed up fashionably late. But they are here. They are certainly causing trouble here in this crowded Central Division. But that just makes it very, very exciting. I love to watch these competitive division games. Obviously, like I said, Arizona on yesterday's show, Arizona and the other teams we're going to play this week are now, there's a target on the Dallas Stars back. So we're going to be getting the best game from each opponent as long as this win streak continues. So certainly lots of credit to Arizona for, sticking with it and giving Dallas a pretty competitive game overall. That 4-1 score, as nice as it looks, is not necessarily representative of how this game went as a whole, but the momentum has been gathered for the Stars. 2 huge points at home, 3 wins in a row on this homestand after traveling to Arizona and winning after Thanksgiving. But now it gets really tough with 3 straight road games against some pretty quality opponents, some a little more quality than others, but still always difficult to play on the road. And especially difficult when you're defending your win streak on the road with hostile crowds. Really talented players that know what's happening. These players are aware of the streaks, like the Stars were aware of the McDavid streak and the Colorado 6-game win streak a few weeks ago. These teams are going to be ready. Vegas is going to be very excited for this opportunity to knock Dallas off of the saddle and ruin the win streak. But I think Dallas is going to be ready for the challenge. Like I said, the momentum has been gathered. They did what they need to do, and now they have all the confidence in the world going forward on this road trip. And obviously, they will have a day in between to get prepared. Well, coming up next, we will continue to talk about last night's game and talk maybe a little bit about more of the negative things. I wouldn't say negative is the word, but take a deeper look at some of the numbers from last night's game and just break that down as a whole to make this win maybe feel a little more clear and maybe not as ugly of a win, if that makes sense. But we will get to that in just a second. But before we do that, I do want to say thank you to some of the sponsors of today's episode, the first of those being Omaha Steaks. The holidays are around the corner, and finding the perfect gift can be very, very tricky. Omaha Steaks makes it easy to send friends and family an unforgettable gift guaranteed to be loved. Go to omahasteaks.com and enter NHL into the search bar to order the perfect gift package. For $99.99, you'll get 24 entrees like the world-famous bacon-wrapped filet mignons, chicken breast, sides, desserts, and so much more. When you use code NHL, you'll also get an additional 8 Omaha Steak burgers for free with your orders. You guys do not want to miss out on this. This is some of the best meats in the world that you can get for $99.99. We've all heard the reports about shortages and shipping delays, so don't wait. Order the perfect gift package today at omahasteaks.com and you'll get 8 free burgers when entering the code NHL. Achieve gifting greatness with Omaha Steaks. Incredible flavor, incredible value, and 100% guaranteed. omahasteaks.com, keyword NHL. Today's episode is also brought to you by Boost Mobile. You listen to podcasts for the power of knowledge. You switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money. Get 3 unlimited data lines for $30 a month per line and a free 5G phone when you switch, so you can get the latest episodes of your favorite podcasts from anywhere. All on one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save with Boost Mobile. Free phone limited to new customers and 1 per line. Additional restrictions apply. Offers and coverage not available everywhere or for all phones or networks. See boostmobile.com for more details. Moving on to the next segment of today's episode of Locked On Stars, your first listen of the day. I want to take a moment and take a look at some of the stats of last night's game and talk about how a little bit lopsided they were and maybe make the result and overall vibe and feel of this game maybe feel a little off. But definitely just wanted to take a look and acknowledge this because I think it's very interesting. And, I never really thought that there was a moment in this game where I thought, Arizona might win. Obviously, the Gostisbehere goal was filthy, really nasty dangle there for the goal. Credit to him. He's one of the best players on this Arizona team. We talked about that in the preview for the first game a few weeks ago. Certainly a talented player, one of the best goals that's probably been scored against the Stars this season, as far as just how great it looked and how impressive of a goal it was. But it only tied the game. Arizona never had the lead in this game. Dallas never trailed. But Arizona still found a way to stay in this game, and it felt like in the first 2 periods that Dallas was allowing them to stay in this game. Dallas won the faceoff percentage in this game, but it was only 53-47. And obviously, Dallas has been a great team in the faceoff circle this season. And, I think a lot of their wins are often as a result of how they win faceoffs and either establish themselves in the offensive zone or, winning faceoffs and clearing the defensive zone. But Arizona, did a really good job of winning a good amount of faceoffs tonight and putting the pressure on Braden Holtby and the Stars. But if we look at some of the deeper numbers, though, Dallas kind of led the way. And it was just kind of one of those weird things where a team dominates at some of the more deeper stats of the game, but the score might not represent that. You look at the final score, obviously, like I said, 4-1 is not representative of how this game was as a whole. But just looking at some of these deeper analytic stats, you look at the Corsi of the game, Dallas led that 55-35. Again, Corsi is all shots that are taken throughout the game, whether they're blocked, on goal, they go wide, anytime a player shoots the puck. And so Dallas, shot 20 more times than Arizona this game, just in general. All kinds of shots, like I said, wide, on net, deflected shots, what have you. They led 35-24 in Fenwick, which was uncontested shots. So Dallas was getting a lot more open looks than the Coyotes. And they also just led the game overall 28-19 on shots on goal. These are only shots that were either saved by the goalie, on goal, went in the net, what have you. And they led the way in scoring chances 29-15. And the most interesting stat of them all, the Dallas Stars led this game 15-3 on high danger scoring chances. So Dallas led the way in this game on all of those stats. Seemed to be dominating on the offensive side of the ice in terms of just, the chances they were getting and the volume of shots they were putting up. 15-3 high danger scoring chances, which means that Dallas found themselves around the net quite a bit and had a lot of opportunities to put the puck in really, really close to the crease, which they definitely did. There were several points in the game where they connected on those goals, and a lot of the goals that they scored were a result of being close to the net, including the one from Jacob Peterson that was called back because of the kick. And so it was just interesting to see that the Stars were getting their chances, getting their looks at the net, but they just weren't connecting early on in the game. And I think that was a huge part of it. So while, we give credit to Arizona for playing a hard game, sticking with the Dallas Stars, it's certainly, don't be deceived. And I don't think it's something that we need to, as Stars fans, lose heart and be worried about this team because we were letting a team like Arizona hang around. I think Dallas was playing fine. I think obviously just with the rust, if you will, I'm using air quotes, of coming off a restful weekend, and not having played since Thursday night. They just weren't connecting. And so maybe it felt it kind of, felt like the early part of the season where the Stars were getting some good looks, but not scoring. But obviously by the end of the game, they got everything figured out, and they, got on track and got the win. But just interesting to see. So don't be misled. The Dallas Stars let the Arizona Coyotes hang around, because the Dallas Stars were doing their job in terms of trying to score and trying to find a way to put themselves in position to win. The shots just weren't necessarily falling until the end of the game. So I think that's very interesting. Always fun to look at the natural stat trick stats, because they go a little deeper than just your traditional ESPN or NHL.com stat sheets. So always, feel free yourself to go take a look at naturalstattrick.com. Lots of really great stuff over there as far as some of the deeper stats and analytics of the game of hockey. Well, coming up next, we have a lot to talk about in regards to a Dallas Stars goalie, and it's not Anton Hudobin, Braden Holtby, or Jake Ottinger. It's Benn Bishop, and he will be making an appearance on an ice rink very, very soon, and we will talk about that in just a second. But before we do that, I do want to take a moment and say thank you to another sponsor of today's episode, and that is BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before, as football season continues to march towards the playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. And to close out today's episode of Locked On Stars, want to take a moment and talk about some news that came out on Monday morning via a press conference that the Stars had before their game yesterday evening against the Coyotes, and that is the return of goalie Benn Bishop. It's been a long time since we've seen Bishop on the ice. The last time he played was the end of August in the 2020 playoffs in the bubble in Edmonton. He's now going to get to play his first game of hockey in a while. I almost said NHL hockey, but that is not true. He will be going down to the AHL in Cedar Park with the Texas Stars to play, a few games there, a conditioning stint, as it's been called, just to kind of see how he feels and to put him in some actual game situations. He's been practicing with the Stars. He was playing at training camp, but obviously himself and the coaches and the training staff did not see it fit to put him back into the game, especially at the NHL level. Just with his knee and just having not played in a while. So he's been taking things slow, but he announced to the press on Monday that he will be going down to Cedar Park to play some games in the AHL, the first of those being on Thursday night. So very excited for Benn Bishop. I know, he's one of the most joyful people on this Dallas Stars team, always competitive, a great competitor. He's been around the league for a long, long time, and had stints with St. Louis, Ottawa, Tampa Bay, a year with Los Angeles. Been with the Stars for the past few seasons. I know we all remember, his great playoffs in 2019. Obviously, this team was sent home too early. A tough loss to that team up in St. Louis, but still a phenomenal playoff performance from Benn Bishop that time around. Always been a great competitor on this team. Obviously, when we saw him in the 2020 playoffs, he was not at his best. We know now that he was playing not 100%, not playing fully healthy, but very, very excited for him to get back out on the ice, because I imagine just being out as long as he was with the injury at the age that he's at age 35, that there were questions of whether or not that he would ever get to play hockey again. So I'm very excited for him to get to come back, obviously, and to potentially continue his career. But it just does strike the predicament that we've been faced with all season of how is this goalie room going to take shape as this season goes on. I don't necessarily expect to be wowed by Benn Bishop. I mean, maybe he'll play really well at the AHL. I don't think that he's going to get destroyed at the AHL level. But just being the age that he's at, coming back from knee surgery, I certainly don't expect to see what we saw back when he was a 3-time Vezina finalist. Because I just think his better days are behind him. I don't think, like I said, I don't think he's going to play terrible, but I don't think he's going to play great. I'm very curious to see how he plays, though. All we can do at this point is speculate up until Thursday when he gets his first game of action at the AHL. But it just causes more questions, like I said, for how the goalie situation will continue to work out within the Stars organization. I'm sure that many of you have heard the rumors about Anton Hudobin potentially getting traded. I know Buffalo has been brought up, which I would absolutely hate, as I know many of you would as well. Anton Hudobin has been, a fan favorite of this team. And I know myself and others would hate to see him go to a team that's not even going to be contending for a Stanley Cup this season. Would love to see him go to a competitive team if we're going to part ways with Anton Hudobin. But I just don't know. But then also, okay, you get rid of Hudobin, but then what? You still have three guys. Do you keep all three guys on the roster? Do you send Ottinger back down? Because I don't think it makes sense to bring Bishop back and then just let him play at the AHL level. I don't know if that's something they would do, but also, do you take Ottinger back down? I don't think that makes sense because he's playing very, very well here at the NHL level. He hasn't lost a game yet. And Braden Holtby seems to be figuring things out again. Do you get rid of him? You just brought him in this offseason. You obviously saw something in him over the offseason and said, hey, we want this guy on our team. He just signed a new deal, not a very long deal, not paying him a whole lot of money, but still something that you have to consider. It's a weird situation to be in, not necessarily a bad situation to be in. If you ask me what I would like to see, I think, as sad as it would be, obviously, like I said, fan favorite, I think you trade Hudobin, see if you can get maybe, I imagine, draft picks. I don't think that we would get any crazy, players or, someone that's just going to come in and change this team and boost this team even more than it already is. And I would personally love to see Holtby and Jake Ottinger at the NHL level still. I don't know necessarily what that means we would do with Bishop. Do we try to trade Bishop? Do we, try to get rid of him in some way? Do we keep him at the AHL level? I don't necessarily know. I'm not necessarily chomping at the bit to see Bishop back in the NHL net. Between the pipes for the Stars. It'd be a cool moment, especially if it was a home game. But I mean, just at where the Stars are now, I don't see the need to bring him back. If the Stars were struggling and had no answers between the pipes, I understand that situation and maybe trying to bring Bishop back, but they're doing just fine. Braden Holtby played pretty well overall against Arizona. He played really well, in the past few games over this win streak. And Ottinger has as well. So I don't see any reason why you pull those two guys. Don't really know what that's going to mean for Bishop. Obviously, I think we'll have maybe a little bit more answers on that, or maybe a little bit more of an idea what might happen with him as we see him play at the AHL. Because maybe if he's really impressive, maybe it's a different conversation of if we do bring him back to the NHL level, or if we try to send him somewhere else and say, hey, this guy's playing really well. What can you offer us, other teams in the NHL looking for a goalie? So going to be very interesting to see how this all shapes out for the Stars. I do imagine that at least three of these four guys will stay with the team in some capacity. If I were to guess who would be leaving, I think it would be Anton Hudobin. As much as we love Dobby, we absolutely love Dobby as Stars Nation. The goalie situation stays crazy. It's been crazy since the preseason, and the drama in that situation has not slowed down yet. But it's exciting to watch. And I guess it's a good problem to have all these proven goalies on the roster right now. But I don't think it will stay that way for the foreseeable future, at least by the end of this season. I'm sure at least one, if not two, of the four guys that are playing at the NHL level or could play at the NHL level will be gone. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked on Stars. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for a preview of the Stars matchup with the Vegas Golden Knights. Thank you again for making Locked on Stars your first listen of the day. Now go make your second listen of the day the Locked on Bets podcast, your daily one-stop shop for all of your gambling needs. Locked on Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. Be sure to subscribe and follow the Locked on Stars podcast wherever you get your podcast at. Be sure to tell your friends about the show. Leave a review if you like what you hear. And also, like I said at the top of the show, we are 10 subscribers away from reaching 100 on YouTube. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. I truly do appreciate it. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Dane_Lewis. That's at DANE 2_LEWIS. You can also find the show on Twitter at Locked on Stars. Always tweeting fun stuff over there. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you guys for stopping by, and we will see you back here tomorrow.